It's an e-commerce platform. It's built on open source technology, meaning Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. It's a very flexible e-commerce system. I've used a couple in the past, like Xcart and SquirrelCart, and so far this has been probably definitely the most flexible, most powerful, very easy to extend, relatively easy. It's complicated, but when you get into it, it's not so bad. So there's a couple versions that are available. You can go and download the open source and use it out of the box for free. There's no cost whatsoever. There's also a premium and enterprise version, so if you're going to, if you need support basically is probably the most compelling reason to go with the professional version. Enterprise adds some more nifty features. I think there's like a handful of features in there. I don't know them off the top of my head, I'm sorry. But you can check that out on Magento's website. So here's the standard features that come with the Community Edition. You can see it's pretty full featured. It has just about everything you need to do to run an e-commerce site, including mobile. That's one thing that they ship with. There's a theme that you just download and install, and you have a mobile version of Magento. So that's pretty nice. So basic system requirements. Once again, it's supposed to be installed on Linux. It uses cron to do some of the background jobs. It works on all the major versions of Apache that are still available. Even works on MySQL 4, and the PHP requirement is 5.2 13 plus. Payment gateways. So a lot of question about when you're evaluating e-commerce is, what payment gateways does it support? Basically, every single one that we've tried to look at. The main ones that it comes integrated with are Authorize.net. If you want to use the other major ones, there's modules for that. All the PayPal products are integrated, so you can do Express Checkout, or you can go with PayPal's full payment gateway, which is like PayFlow Pro, and that would allow you to do processing of credit cards natively on your site, as well as a lot of the other things like Amazon Payments and Money Bookers and Click and Buy and Google Checkout. Those are all the payment solutions that when you go to that, when they choose that, they navigate off your site, fill out the payment information, come back, and that allows you to get away with basically not having to use HTTPS because they're doing all the payments information on somebody else's site. Like Money Bookers and Click and Buy are also very popular international payment solutions. So if you're developing a site that's going to be international, you probably want to look at some of those other options there. Just some examples of Magento sites that are out there in the wild. You can see Maui Jin's got a site. This was a big one for Magento. They had a press release when GAT China launched. I'm trying to get an example of some other things besides just clothes. People selling tea. So basically, Magento's code is organized into modules. So if you download the source code, you're going to see one of the first things you're going to see is an app folder. And Magento's code is actually organized just like you would organize any code that you develop yourself. So if you look in app code core mage, you're going to see things like the catalog module or the PayPal module. So every feature that Magento comes out of the box is developed as a module. Just like if you want to develop your own code, you would put it in app code local. Your package would normally be like your company name. So if you work for IGN, we have an IGN package. And then you make your module names and you start building your module in there. Magento needs to know about your module. So if you're used to Zen Framework and you stick a module in the Zen Framework, it just knows about it. It's already there. You can start, the router automatically knows how to find it. Magento is configuration over convention. And all that means is that you need to tell Magento that your module exists. And you do that by creating an XML file. It goes in app etc modules, and there's some configuration there, some XML configuration, and that tells Magento to load up your module. So like I said, as opposed to a convention-based MVC where you put your controllers and models in the proper location, this would be your, let's see, this would be part of a configuration in your module that tells Magento about your models in this case. Same thing for if you develop helpers or blocks or routes or event handlers and everything. Everything you want Magento to load has to be part of your configuration. It won't automatically find any of those classes. Controllers. So here's an example URL. You have catalog, category, view, ID 25. If you're used to Zen Framework, and I'm certain some of the other popular frameworks, this will look familiar. You basically have your module, or your front name, Magento calls it front name. It's basically your module. And you have your controller name and an action name. And then they also do the handy thing where everything after that will be turned into key value pairs in your GET request. In order for your controllers to be found, you need to configure those once again. So you have front end, routers, catalog. Use standard means use the standard router that Magento ships with. Then you tell it, okay, here's my module, Mage catalog, and the front name is catalog. So that basically says that any request to catalog your front name it'll try to find the controller in this module, Mage catalog module. So context-based URI class loading. So all that is it's a fancy way of saying you don't initialize your classes by saying new something. Like anything else I've ever looked at in most programming languages, you initialize your class, you say new something. In Magento, they provide these helper methods. Get model. What that does is it says, okay, get model catalog product turns that into Mage catalog model product. Helper, same thing. Mage catalog helper product. All of your modules should implement a data helper, and what that does is if you initialize the class by just saying, if you don't have a slash in your URI, it's going to try to initialize this data helper. Magento models. So Magento has an ORM. The base class implements a lot of the magic PHP functions. So you have underscore call, and that does your get, set, unset, and has on all attributes. The set provides a fluid interface, so you can do things like this: set price, price, set SKU, SKU. You can see here that if you want to load the product with ID 27, you simply just call load. So using an ORM, basically gets you out of the business of writing SQL queries to get your data out of your database and then having to put that into your model. So Magento comes with that out of the box for it. Collections. They also provide an interface for getting multiple objects. So this little snippet of code shows you how you would find all the products with a price equal to $5. You'll see this line here, add attribute to select. So what's happening there is Magento uses this thing called EAV. It's entity attribute value. And what that does is it puts the values of attributes in a table for, say you have an attribute that wants to use a varchar. It has a table specifically for all the varchars. It's got a table for all the int values. It's got a table for all of the text fields, and so on. So every SQL type that is supported has a separate table where all the attribute values are stored. So by default, they're going to they're going to take a conservative approach and only load the base set of attributes. If you want other attributes, you use this add attribute to select. You can put star in, and it's going to return all the values across all those EAV tables, or you can be more specific and only get the attributes out that you need. Helpers. Helpers provide utility methods. All modules should implement the data helper, as I said, and your helper should extend Mage Core Helper Abstract. It gives you several useful methods. One of those would be translation. So anytime you are going to output a string in Magento, you should put it through this helper underscore underscore method. And what that does is, since it extends from core helper abstract, it calls the translation function. Of course, you have to have the locale files. They're a set of CSV files for each module that provide the string-to-string translation. There's a lot of those that are available for free from Magento, and there are some, they're basically always asking the community to generate more translation files. Events and observers. So Magento makes great use of the event observer pattern. There's a lot of events. I think the list is upwards of 200 some events that are called per page request. What that does is allow you to hook in and provide any sort of functionality you want to provide. For some of the example events that I highlighted here are before the front controller is initialized, there's an event that's fired. After the routers are initialized, every time a model is saved, every time a user logs in, there's an event fired. There's a lot more in there, and you can add your functionality that way. This would be an example of how you would configure that. So if I wanted to do the controller front init routers, so after the init routers are initialized, I use this XML structure. I say I have a list of observers. I provide a unique name for my event, and I tell it the class of my observer, so my module observer. And then I have a method, do something after routers are initialized. So you implement what you want to happen during that event in that method in the my module observer class. Class overrides. I'm not a Ruby or Python developer, but I believe that duck typing and monkey patching are things that that those two languages provide. It's really similar what Magento does. It basically allows you to say, okay, every time that Magento says get model catalog product, that normally is going to initialize the Magento catalog product model. But if you want to have your own catalog product model with different functionality or extended functionality, you can just tell Magento that, hey, I want to rewrite inside the catalog, I want to rewrite the product model, and you give it a class name. And that will initialize your class instead. Normally, what you would do is extend their catalog product model, and that way you get all the built-in functionality, and then you override what you want to override, or you add new functions where necessary.